For this week's lesson, we will be making this cool watercolored shamrock painting in celebration of St. Patrick's Day. Alright, let's get our materials ready. For today's project, you will need your watercolor set, a number 2 pencil, a white crayon, a pair of scissors, a small dish to add some water, a large piece of white construction paper. I've already traced the outline of a shamrock here, as you can see, and a small sheet of green construction paper. You can also grab a roll of masking tape, and this is helpful to tape your paper down in order to keep it from curling. Alright, well, now that you've got your supplies, let's get started. For the first step of this project, you're going to need your scissors, your number 2 pencil, and your green sheet of paper, and you can put the rest of the things aside for now. So for the first step of this project, we need to make a small stencil so that we can outline a bunch of little shamrocks. So we're going to make a little stencil of a shamrock, and I want to do that by first folding the piece of paper in half, like so, and then I'm going to draw half the shamrock, and then I'm going to cut it out. So the way you draw a shamrock is you're going to want to come out and you're going to almost want to draw like a heart shape at the top, but instead of coming down to the middle here, you're going to want to draw it out a little bit. So I'm just going to draw one heart shape, and remember, when you cut this, you're only making half of it, so I'm going to draw half a heart shape. Then I'm going to come down here and basically draw 2 butterfly wings. Then back to what I would consider the stem. Now, because it's a stencil, if you don't like it, you can always fix it. You don't have to erase it. You can, just even it out how you want it, because I think this one's a little bit bigger. And also, when you cut it out, it'll change, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think this top piece is a little bit too big, but again, like I said, you're going to cut it out, so you can shape and trim it as you go. Alright, I think that's the shape I want, and now I'm going to cut it out. Now that we've cut it out, you can unfold it and check out what your shape looks like. Mine looks like a pretty good shamrock. I think I'm going to use this one. If you want to change it, you can refold it and cut it, but I like this. Plus, we're making abstract art, so every piece of art's going to look unique in its own way, and it'll turn out pretty cool anyways. So let's get started on step number 2. So I'm going to set my shamrock aside real quick, and the first thing I want to do is I want to trace around my shamrock with the white crayon. Just trace the black line as hard as I can. I know I won't be able to see it, which is kind of the fun part about this project, is that it's really hard to see what you're doing until you get to the watercoloring. So you're going to go around the outside of your shamrock. Once I finish that, I want to take my shamrock and I want to set it along one of the edges. And what I want to do is I want to trace on the inside of the shamrock my little green shamrock, but stopping at the edge of the big one. So on the inside, from black line to black line, but not going over it, we're going to trace our shamrock. Give it a nice thick outline. Even though you can't see it, you want to try to trace it. So, and I'm going to trace this little tiny corner as well. Alright, and now I'm going to move my shamrock to another position, and I'm going to trace it again. And I'm going to continue doing this around the shamrock and inside the shamrock, and I'm going to overlap the other small ones on the inside, not worrying about where those lines are. Tracing this little shamrock I found was a little hard, but I looked over in my scrap bin and I noticed that I had the exact inverse of this shape cut out. So if I had cut this out of a bigger piece of paper, I could have actually had a little bit more to hold on to and probably something sturdier. Mine's too thin and it'll break here, so it's pretty much useless. But this is another option to tracing the shamrock. You would just go on the inside of this one instead of having to go around the outside of this one very carefully. It might be easier to use this one, but for now, I'm going to use my little shamrock. All right, I'm going to get back to it. Now that you're finished with that, you can go to the top of your paper and you can write your name. I know it's going to be hard to see, but just trust me. Just try to write your name as best you can, and you can draw happy faces or hearts or any secret message you want to put into your paper. You need to do it now with your white crayon. For the final step of the project, you're going to need your watercolor, and you're going to need your watercolor dish with a little bit of water in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to wash the entire painting in green paint. We're going to take our watercolor brush, we're going to dip it in a little bit of water, and we are going to wash the entire thing in green. And it doesn't matter, and something magical should happen. Let's see what happens. I decided to leave the shamrock green, and I'm going to do the background in a multicolor to reveal my secret message. But to do that, I'm going to use a foam brush because this covers much more area and it's easier to use with your watercolor. If you don't have one of these, you can use your regular paintbrush. This is just going to take longer, and your foam brush will work a lot better. I think mine's all finished, and my secret message was revealed. Now, it's not perfect because you can't see it, so you can't expect it to be perfect. But you have a colorful St. Patrick's Day project ready to put on your fridge. Well, that's the end of this lesson, so till next week. Bye!